Is it recording? It's recording? Oh, hello guys. Hey, do you prefer to have a live demo with me? Then you can ask as many questions as you want. If yes, then pause this video, go to the description, and there is a link there so you can schedule a call with me. But if you prefer to have this recorded conversation, okay, no hard feelings, let's get started. Last year, I was discussing with a few friends about problems that CTOs, engineer directors, and also their teams are having to deploy applications. And we saw that many people were suffering with complex configurations and they are unable to set up metrics, unable to fetch logs in an easy way, like to search, to download like past logs. And they were not achieving like the observability level that they would like to have to follow their apps and their database. So they had a very complex picture to analyze, but they are not able to grab the data at the same time to focus on the product, to release new features, to develop the code. So it's a lot of moving parts to handle as a technical team nowadays. On top of all this struggle, they are also paying a very high price for this cloud service that in the beginning they promised to be like a lifesaver, like you don't need to do anything else, like everything is ready, everything is done for you, and you can just enjoy. But in reality, you need to configure all these pieces that I just mentioned. So it was really hard to achieve this like goal of being in the cloud and be fast, like move fast and don't need to spend a lot of time with DevOps operation. I'm not even going to talk about support because when you're using like big clouds, you don't have support or you need to pay a lot of money for a really bad support. So you probably just like, okay, I need to hire someone, I need to pay for somebody full time to help me with this operation of my company. And that's basically it because support is not available in these places. But then you're thinking, Philip, you're talking about support and you're talking about big clouds, but do I have other options? Like if I don't run in the big three clouds, where could I run my app in a reliable way? And maybe I could have a good support, maybe I could have a better price. And my answer for you is yes, you don't have only three cloud providers in the world. Like you have many options. I'm going to show you what you are building in zCloud. So zCloud is a cloud platform that you can run apps and databases, and you can have expert support with you all the time. Like you really respond to all the questions, even when you have problems with your code base. For example, today, when I'm recording this, I just helped a guy with a Java application, and he was having some issues trying to read some environment variables, but he was using a property files that's not exactly the same. So I was just looking to his code because I asked him to send me a snippet. And I said, oh, I think you're a little bit confused about what is an env and what is a property files. And then a few minutes later, he said, oh, thank you. Now it's working. So that's what we do. Like it's not related to cloud at all, but I was able to help because this guy was struggling with a specific problem in his code. And we do this for all the clients and we can help a lot of clients every single day. Okay, enough talking. Let's see what you can do. What you see here, this is our like dashboard. So I'm showing you the Quave account, one of the accounts that we have here. In the top, you can see how much resource I'm using in this account. And you can see a few apps that are running here. And if I scroll down a little bit, you can also see a MongoDB database that we are running in this account as well. To show you how it works, I'm going to create a new account here. So I'm going to create one Philip test 4. I don't know why I chose 4. Then when you have a new account, you're going to see a page like this. In the right side, we have a few templates if you want to play around and just run a very quick deploy, but probably you already have your code. And then you have two ways to connect your code. You can connect your code using GitHub, and you can also connect your code using our CLI. Our CLI is very flexible. You can run it anywhere. You can also use as a GitHub action. We have a special GitHub action just to run these deploys. So it's up to you. What is important for you to understand that GitHub and the CLI are just two different ways for us to get your code and start the build. But after this process of getting your code, everything is the same. So it's not a big difference if you're using GitHub connection or if you're using the CLI. The process is exactly the same. So let me show you first with GitHub, and maybe I can record other video later to show more about the CLI. So check the channel and subscribe. I'm going to click here. Now I'm going to select one organization, just a zCloud organization that we have on GitHub. If you don't have your organization connected yet to zCloud, you can just come here and add a new organization. Of course, I have a lot of organizations here, but you are going to have an empty list. Then you click here, authorize zCloud, and then you can see your organization in this list here. I'm going to search because I have many repos here. So I'm going to select one that is a very simple HTTP. So we can just show you the whole process in a few seconds. So that's the Docker HTTP. Then I'm going to click import. In this repo, I can show you what you have there. So as I said, it's a very simple repo. So you have a Docker file just with a Docker static website image here being imported. And also we have this index that you can make changes together, and then you can see these changes on zCloud, and we are going to do this in a moment. But going back here, so I am using this repo, and I'm going to select how many resources I want. We have this unit that we call zCloud again, so it's also called zCloud, the same name as our application. So zCloud, one zCloud means 512 megabytes of memory and half of zCPU. You can think of zCPU as a virtual core, virtual CPU. Each cloud has a name, but it's a part of the core that's going to be allocated to your application inside your container. And then for each zCloud, we have different price in different regions. As a baseline, you have this price of $7.50 per month. So there is no surprise, that's the price and that's it. If you run the whole month, it's going to be this price. If you run less, it's going to be charged by the hour. Also, when you create your account, you have a sign up bonus, as you can see here. Now let's click in configure. I just want to use one zCloud. It's just my test account that I just created to demonstrate to you. Then I can choose my application name. I'm just going to call my app. I will pretend that this is my stage environment, so I can just put the name of my environment. I will select US1. You can select also Finland, German, and Virginia. We have different prices, but that you can check with our support if you have any questions about the pricing. But here I'm going to check the US1. Then I'm going to choose my branch. You can see I have other branches coming from GitHub in this case. I can also specify a branch if I have a very long list of branches here. But in this case, I just want to run main. zCloud is smart enough to detect a few frameworks, but that's just a shortcut for you to define your Docker file. Because, for example, if I go to Express and then I click here, I can see the Docker file that zCloud is going to use. But you can just copy paste any Docker file in the internet and it should work without any change. But in this case, I'm going to use a custom Docker file, but I'm not going to paste the file here. Why? Because I have the file inside my repository. So as you saw here, I have this file, and then I'm just going to reference this file in my configuration. So I will click here to use a Docker file path instead of content. Okay, so I'm going to put Docker file. If you put a wrong name here, you're going to see an error because you're not going to be able to find, but you're going to see the log saying, oh, Docker file not found, or something very similar. If I have a monorepo with multiple folders, multiple projects, I could also select a different folder here. In this case, I don't have any folder. That's why you don't see, but you're going to see the tree of folders. So I'm going to just deploy from my root directory, and I'm going to run in the 3000 port. I don't want to put any envvar here, but I have a lot of features around envvars, but I'm not going to explain in this video. But just keep in mind that you have build envvars, deploy envvars, and envvars that can affect both. And I can record more videos. As I said, subscribe. So I'm going to click deploy. What this process is going to do, as you can see a preview here, it's going to build the image. So it's going to pull this image and build a new image for you. And then we are going to run this image in a new container for you. So let's do that. So now it's going to take a few seconds for us to really start the building of the image, and boom, I didn't speed up the video, but the image is already being built. And like this image is very small, as I showed you, it's just like a very small image for a static website. So usually your deploy is going to take between 30 seconds and like 2 minutes, but in this case it's taking like maybe 15 seconds because the image is really small. Now it's done. So it was built, the image pushed to the registry, and now it's running. So we have a few options here. Like the first option is to see the environment details. So you can see everything that was created for you. You can also open this app so you can see the app running. Maybe you should do that just to make sure it's working. Yes, it's working. It's a very simple example, but it's working fine. And you can also go to your account dashboard. But let's go to the environment so you can see what was created behind the scenes. So behind the scene, everything was created for you. It was created your application here and also your staging environment. Here you can rename your environment if you want. Here where I have a temporary URL, I'm going to show you how you can customize it. But then what I want to do first, I will just click here because this is saying like, oh, this build was not started because you pushed something to your repository. This build was started because you just connected. So it was a manual action. Maybe that's not a better name, the best name, but it's the name that we are using here. So I'm going to click here to go to GitHub, to this very specific branch, in this case main. I'm going to click here to add to this file. And I'm going to put here like recorded demo. And I'm going to commit this change, and I'm going to push this change. So of course, you probably are going to develop in your machine. I'm just showing in the browser to be easier for you to understand it. So let me go back here. And now it's building again. Why? Because I have a change. If I click here, that's my hash of my commit, and I can see my change. And GitHub notified zCloud, and zCloud started new build. And now zCloud is replacing the containers. So previously you had the containers for version 1, and now we are starting the container for version 2, and very soon we are going to turn it off the container for the version 1. So maybe if I click this URL again, I am already going to get the new version, and that's it. The new version is already live. The old version is still running. It's almost being terminated. Why? Because you are using blue-green deployment, so your app is never down during upgrades. So let's go to the application so I can explain you a little bit about that. So in the application side, you have your connected repository. You have the configuration that we did in the first page. And we also have more things. You have the TCP. That's just a special case if you want to connect using TCP and not HTTP. We also have SSL enable. So that means that every time you add a domain, it's going to generate the certificate for you using Let's Encrypt. You don't need to do anything, and it's going to be really fast. We also have this that's really important, and we have docs everywhere, so you can understand the importance of this. But you should imagine like this is going to be sure that your container is healthy. Your container is providing a 200 response in this endpoint. Maybe you want to create a custom one. It's up to you. By default, we just are going to ping the root of your application. And then when you use health check in combination with blue-green, you can have this nice deployment without any downtime, because as you saw, the second container was already started, but the first one was not terminated immediately because it was waiting for the health check to pass. And we explain everything that we do here. We even have this nice diagram here so you can understand the timings. But then if I go back to my environment right now, the old container is probably dead because we are able to terminate it safely. So you can see the old one was terminated. So you don't need to do anything, you don't need to configure anything, and it's just working in a very nice way to deploy your chants. So going back to the app, we have more settings here. I'm not going to explain everything, but you should keep in mind that you can run volumes if you want. You can also have stick sessions. You can restrict the network and a lot of other things that you can do. But let's go to the environment, because that was for the app. So why do you have this idea of app and environment? Let me show you. You can see here my stage environment. Let's suppose that now everything is okay, and now I want to go to production. So I can create a new environment here. I can select how many resources I want, and I can create a new environment with production. I can select the same region, and I can select the same branch, and then I can deploy. So now I'm going to have the same application with two environments. Usually what you're going to do, let me go back. This is going to run in the background. You're going to have the stage environment in a specific branch, and you're going to have the production environment in another branch. So let's change the stage environment for the hello branch. And now I can present you another concept in zCloud. Can you see the heading? We have chains. So when you make changes in the UI, we are never confused if the changes are just in the UI yet, or if they are applied to your application. So you can see all the pending changes here. And if I click here, I can see, okay, my changes that are in this case is just my branch. They are going to be applied when I click this button, or when I push new changes, or when I make a new deploy with the CLI. In this case, we are going to click apply. So the branch is going to be replaced, and then a new build is going to be run. But what happens if I have a change that doesn't affect the build? It's very good, because you don't build your application again. So it's going to be really fast. So let's do the first one with a build. So it's going to run the build. Now we have a different branch. I even don't know what's the content of this branch, but you can check here. For sure, this branch here. It was the hello branch, I believe. So you can see that you have hello Victor. Victor was probably some client that I was demo in the past. So here you can see it's already doing the same process every time. So it's going to replace the old containers, but first it's going to wait the new containers to be alive. So let's click here, and the new container is already alive. Hello Victor, and that's our stage environment. But you remember that I create another environment using the main branch. So let's go there. So I can see my environment here, and then I can go to production. Let's see if this other environment is ready. Yes, it's ready, and it's still using the content from the main branch as we expected. So you can make change to two branches, and it's going to deploy to the correct environment because they are connected to the specific branch that you asked for. And now we can navigate to the other tab. So as this is a production environment, you could create another domain. So you could have something like myapp.com, or you can put www.mywebsite or anything like this. And in your DNS, you just need to create a new CNAME record, point to the ingress that is informed here. Again, we have multiple regions around the world, so you need to double check what is the ingress that is indicated here. And we also have documentation about this. If you need to whitelist IPs in your database, that's also possible. Then you can check the IPs here, for example. So we have everything covered for you. We also have something that is nice if you have multiple applications that are communicating with each other. That is the local service. So this local service is a way for you to access your application internally without going to the internet. I'm not going to explore this here, but just so you know, that's an option. You could put a proxy on top of your applications inside zCloud and then route the traffic just internally. We also have the envvars. I'm not going to add this domain now, but you also have the envvars. So I'm just going to put an example envvar here, just so I can show you that if I have a change that is just going to affect my deploy, like this envvar is not going to be used on builds. So I can click here, and then now you can see my changes are highlighted again, but they are just a deploy change. So it's not going to cause a build. Let me show you the difference. If I go here, and if I change my branch, that's going to cause a build. Can you see? A build is required. But if I go here and I return it to my old branch, like zCloud is smart enough to see, oh, now you don't need a build, just a deploy. So when I click here, it's just going to apply this change, but it's not going to build an image. So if your build takes like 2-3 minutes, that's not going to need to, you are not going to need to wait in this case. So I'm going to click here, and now I'm going to apply this change. So that's a process that is very good. We use zCloud as well, so we use this product every day ourselves, so it's very helpful to have this kind of approach. And then the last two tabs here, you have notifications that you can receive warnings or success messages on email and Slack, and you can also notify just specific members of your team. And then you can select which ones, like, oh, the build failed. You probably want to know about that because you need to do something. So that's the process that we have here with these notifications. And the last tab is the history tab. So here you can see all your configurations. In this case, I don't have any vars, but I have build settings, I have my deployment settings, and then I can compare with a different version. And I have this highlighted part that shows me that there is one addition in this section. If I go to my other environment, you see that we have a different change there. So let's go back to the stage environment. I will go to the dashboard this time, so you can see that you can access your environment straight from the dashboard by clicking here. So here inside this page, I can go to history. And as you imagine, like now here in this one, I did that commit that was to put record demo here, and you can see here, and then you can understand that there was no changes. It was just a new code. And here we have a change because we changed the branch. So we can understand everything that was happening. And even if I want to restore, I can also click here to restore to an old state of the configurations, not the code. So here I am back to the old configuration, and what was the difference? The difference was the branch. And I can go back to my current version, so I don't have any change. And I also can go back to code, so I can also deploy an old version of my image that's going to return to the previous version of the code. So these together are very powerful. So you can restore configurations, you can restore code, you can build new images, you can redeploy images. So everything was very well planned to be a very good experience in terms of the management of your application in production. Like zCloud is a cloud for production applications, for companies that are building real business and talking with real clients like you are watching this video right now. The last part that I want to show you, and I'm not going to show everything because otherwise you are going to run out of time, but the last part that I want to show you, oh, this is a recording, we don't have time, but I want to be brief, so let's go back here. So this header, we have a few options here. Like we can stop that, that's kind of obvious, right? Just stop that. You can also increase the containers, so that's not going to cause a deploy, and that's not going to cause a build. That's just going to cause a scale as you expected, right? So the old container is going to be there, but when I apply, I'm going to create another container, so it's not going to affect the other container that's already running. I can also increase the amount of clouds that I want to use. And remember, one zCloud is half of CPU and half memory, as you can see here. So you can see metrics already, like, oh, it's using just 1% of CPU. And you can also ask for customizations for our team if you need to have some different kind of proportion between CPUs and memory. And then you can click here in containers, and you can see very briefly that you have 2 containers running now. So our system, our proxy is going to balance the container, send one request for each container. And you can also increase the size of the container. And what's going to show you, like, okay, zCloud is just a proxy for memory and CPU. So your CPU is going to be increased and your memory is going to be increased as well. So if you apply this change, you are going to replace both containers because you need to increase them. So if you do this, very soon it's going to apply both. And that's what I want to show you in this page, but I have something else for you that it's very cool, that you can see metrics of your application. So if you click here in this small link, you are going to see that I have a metric dashboard ready for me just after I deploy my application. So of course I don't have a lot of data to show you because this app is pretty new, but you can see already that I have some containers starting and some containers dying because we are applying changes all the time. You can see the memory, you can see network, you can see a lot of things. And I can also look to my other environment, that is my production environment, but that's also new. I can also see like my ingress, where my requests are coming. And for database, we also have specific dashboards. So that's just a glimpse for you to have an idea of what we have. And if you also want to run database, you need to talk with our support, because we are really careful with database, because we need to be sure the machine that's allocating the disk is a proper machine for the database that you are running. So we do this for you, but you also can see this in the UI, as I showed you for the Quave application. I can show you very quickly again. If you go here, and you also have some other tools like slow queries. It's almost the same, but it's not exactly the same UI. And you can also go to your metrics here. For example, this one is a real database, but it's probably not running a lot of queries right now because it's night. So, but you can see like it's running, and you can see a lot of metrics about this MongoDB database, who is the primary, who is getting more load, and so on. So that's a really nice tool. And to wrap up, I think I just forgot to show you an important part, that is the part where you see the logs. So I'm just going to go to Limeno. This is a social network kind of application that we have. And you can see the logs that are getting here. And you can select between web app, the build logs, the checks, because you run the health checks, and you put some logs here if there are any problems that are happening. And you can filter error or info. You can also select containers. If you have more than one, you are going to see this. And you can also search for specific text that is here. And this feature is really nice, that you can download some logs, even for the past week. So it's very helpful if you need to analyze something that's like in the past, because it's not that easy to do this in the web. So you can just copy this file and open whatever you want to open. And you can use all the tools that you have in your machine to try to find the problem. And also in conjunction with the metrics, you can analyze like the whole picture and try to understand what is going on if you had an issue, and then you can work from there. So I didn't show you everything. I didn't show you how the billing works, how savings plan work, how you can add members, how you can set up notifications in your account as a whole, where you should watch for the change that we are doing, like the maintenance that we do in our stats page, our docs. But one part that I really need to show you is this magic button here, because this magic button leads you to this pop-up, and then you can ask for help. And as I said in the beginning, we help everybody as soon as possible. In the work hours, of course, you can help you probably in less than 1 hour. But even when you are not in the work hours, if you see a message from you, we are going to try to respond as soon as possible. This is going to send a message to us in our Slack. So if anybody from our team is online, it's going to reply to you. And remember, we are building this with a lot of years of expertise. And then we have people that are very qualified for the work, and they also are developers. So they also know how to help you with Node.js, PHP, Python, Java, and many other tools. Even native mobile, we can help you. So I hope you enjoy. I hope you can understand what we are doing here. We try to build this with our clients. So we talk with our clients every single day. Just this morning, I talked with a client for more than 1 hour. Of course, we also talk about other things besides work, but we are trying to build relationships and to have these clients running with us in the long term. If you enjoy this and if you want to talk to me, just please use the link in the description, schedule a call, and see you later. Bye-bye.